Hey guys, welcome back to D4 Sports. I'm joined once again by master of the big board, the mock draft expert himself, Matt Giattino. Matt, say hello.
What's up, fellas? How are we?
Good, good, good. Guys, we had the first round last night. A lot of exciting stuff went down. I was locked in from 8 o'clock all the way through midnight. I was actually surprised, Matt. Not much different in terms of time. I either expected it to go a lot faster or a lot slower with the whole Zoom and virtual thing, but we got plenty of commercials. We got plenty of ad time, plenty of analysts, giving their expert opinion, and we got some booze for Roger Goodell. What'd you think of the whole setup?
Yeah, I thought Goodell was a little corny with some of his interactions to the fans on the
God,
screens and stuff like that, and I thought he definitely messed up a couple times. And I guess having it live in that setting, I think it was probably uncomfortable for him.
sure.
And I liked it. I think that, to your point, I think it was gonna go a little faster than usual, and they dragged some of it out to make it almost back to normal.
Yeah, because you got to get your commercials in, right?
Yeah, of course, got to get the money.
Yeah. My favorite was when Goodell said that the 2020 NFL draft would be hosted in Las Vegas.
Yes, yep.
While we're in the middle of the 2020 draft, and then never backed off
Never
on it.
changed it. Yeah.
And he just like completely skipped and just went to the pick. It was great.
Yeah. And a couple of the analysts, you brought up to me, you and I were texting, Mel Kiper looked horrendous.
Looked
I
like
thought
he
Trey
was
Wingo
coked
looked
out.
terrible. So, yeah, he didn't look good.
Dude, Mel Kiper was vibrating on screen. It was bizarre. The guy is literally shaking uncontrollably while trying to like give his analysis of Jerry Jeudy, and I was just looking at him. I'm like, what's going on with this guy today? Like things are strange.
He needed his annual pumpkin pie that he eats after the draft. He's waiting
Love
for it. So,
it. Yeah.
yeah.
Some notable omissions from the analytic board last night. I didn't see Rich Eisen, which I was upset about, considering that they merged. They brought together ESPN and the NFL Network for the draft coverage.
Yes. Yep.
No Rich Eisen. Todd McShay, obviously recovering from the coronavirus himself. Our
Sure.
T's and P's out to him.
Yep.
Uh, but that was sad. Didn't get to see him last night. A couple of guys I expected to see, but we got blessed with the lovely analysis of Booger McFarland, like we always do on ESPN.
That was a disaster. I was praying that they would bring in Rappaport to bring in against Schefter. Like, that would have been funny as all
So
hell.
much fun.
Yeah, that would
Oh,
have been great.
speaking of Adam Schefter, the tweet of the night that just caught fire immediately. He says, "So excited to finally have a live sporting event in what felt like months," and the WNBA psychos come full bore out at him, saying, "We had our draft last week," and Schefter was just
Not great.
not a good look for that guy. Not a
Yeah,
good
I
look
mean,
at
but at
all.
the same time, you look at like the market for the WNBA. I mean, it's very minuscule compared to the NFL.
Hey,
But
listen, our New York Liberty had the number one pick. We got to give respect where respect is due.
that's right. You're repping the Oregon Ducks there for it.
Right
There you go.
there. Future is bright. Future is bright. But that was great. It was nice to sit down, crack a couple of drinks and just enjoy the picks. I had a ton of fun. Pretty chalk for the top 10, I would say, right? I
Yeah.
mean, in terms of prospects going where they want, or just the prospects in general that we thought in the top 10, there was no like, like, oh my God, that guy went
No doubt.
here. I think Isaiah Simmons probably the biggest surprise of the top 10 going
Yeah.
to Arizona. I mean, not going in the top 10, but just going to Arizona, probably the
Yeah.
biggest surprise.
Definitely. I think with, Simmons, I think a lot of people question where he would fit in their defense. So I think that was some of the concern. And again, we saw that even with Tristan Wirfs on the offensive line side,
Mhm.
where was his fit going to be? So that I think that dropped him as well.
Yeah. Thoughts on the Giants pick at 4?
I initially wasn't upset, but I wasn't like, wow. Personally, we discussed this. I like Jedrick Wills as the number
Yes.
one tackle, but I after kind of it happening, it sunk in. Andrew Thomas is definitely surefire left and right tackle. He could do both. He did both at Georgia.
Mhm.
He's going to maul people in the run game, and I think you look at the coaching staff on the offensive side of the ball for the Giants with Jason Garrett, Mark Colombo having that background in Dallas. Kind of like breeding offensive lineman, if you will. I think
Yeah.
this is a great pick for them. Once Colombo gets a hold of him, I think he's going to be a really good player for them. I would start him out at left tackle right away and
Yeah.
just let Nate Solder battle it out with Nick Gates, who they have, and just see what they got in it. I think start the kid off right away, left tackle, and make him comfortable where he's at. So
Yeah, why not? In our mock draft, we had Andrew Thomas going at number 11 to the Jets. And when I talked about him, I cited just super safe pick.
yeah,
Um, you know, incredibly high floor just because the pedigree he's coming from, a great, O-line class at Georgia. Two Georgia offensive tackles go in round one last night. How about that?
yeah, I know Isaiah Simmons, the poly prep product,
Yep.
out of Brooklyn. And yeah, I was surprised. I think he's again another guy who they're going to have to be a little bit patient with there in Tennessee. But they needed a replacement there. I thought it'd been a little too rich for him that late first round. I wasn't a big fan of that, but good for him and good for the Georgia program.
Yeah, Georgia program. They got a couple of guys coming out next year that are going to be surefire first round picks on that O line. Just a good pedigree. For my Jets and for my Raiders, I was very happy with the Mekhi Becton pick. Very excited about it. Just the mammoth human being that he is. Super high ceiling for this guy. Maybe a lower floor than a guy like Wills or a guy like Thomas. When we got to the 10th pick, and Jedrick Wills is sitting there on the board, and I'm just like, please,
Yeah.
Cleveland, do something to let us get Jedrick Wills. I was
Do
screaming
something,
for them to
Cleveland.
trade up. Yeah, great pick for Cleveland.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
so, Jets got their tackle, Giants got their tackle, protect their young quarterback, super happy about it. For the Raiders, on the other hand, Henry Ruggs, I'm very excited about, just speed. Uh, you know, I think the big question that a lot of these AFC teams, especially the AFC West, had was how are we going to beat Kansas City? I think the Raiders took the approach of the way to beat Kansas City for us is going to be match explosion for explosion. They have a solid ground game, good O-line. Now they add that speed element in Henry Ruggs, and I think, now you can get a little quick strike ability. As for the 19th pick, Damon Arnett getting drafted at 19 was disgraceful, in my opinion, with guys like Jeff Gladney, Christian Fulton, um, Trayvon Diggs even sitting there on the
Jalen
board.
Johnson.
Jalen Johnson, definitely. I think what had happened was Mayock had hoped A.J. Terrell was going to be there at 19, considering they had just drafted Trayvon Mullen the year before. They wanted that Clemson, breed coming in.
Yep.
If Terrell was there at 19, I think he's the pick. He goes 16 to the Falcons, which is fine. I thought that was a good selection, but to me, there was guys like Caleb Von Chase on the board, and you could have even doubled up at wide receiver, and I wouldn't have been upset. But
Sure.
Arnett's the pick. I'll see. We'll see what happens. I'm not going to complain about it too much. We'll get into more of our thoughts on that as we move on. But what we want to tackle today, what were our three biggest surprises of the first round, and then what are the three things that we're looking forward to tonight at 7 when we get our our coverage of the second and the third round. So I'll kick it off. First biggest surprise for me came with the Packers trading up to 26 to draft Jordan Love. I was not shocked because I could certainly see why. It's funny, we did a big mock draft with a couple of our buddies, big draft guys, and I think on one of those mocks that we did, Jordan Love ended up going 30 to the Packers.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, so it wasn't something that we thought was completely outside of the realm of realm of possibilities. But you trade up, you give up assets to move up to 26. You take Jordan Love. Aaron Rodgers is apparently pissed, and now my mind immediately thinks of Bill Belichick calling the Packers and getting Aaron Rodgers for a conditional 4th-round pick, and I'm just shaking.
Dying inside.
Yeah, I'm dying
Yeah.
a little bit.
I mean, I think you have to look at it from the perspective of it's the life cycle, it's the evolutionary life cycle of the NFL. I mean, this happened with Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers. I think they were the same age, Aaron Rodgers and Brett Favre, as it is now, right? So that's interesting. I think Jordan Love, that's a good fit for them. I think you could put him with LaFleur. He'll learn from Rodgers. I don't know how much Rodgers is going to be a mentor to the kid, but if at all. But I think that he'll definitely learn some stuff from him. He'll learn from LaFleur. It's a good spot for him to grow, develop, and then take over when it's needed down the line. I wouldn't be surprised if Aaron Rodgers finishes his career in another uniform or another two uniforms.
Well, once Tom
But
Brady
yeah,
goes to the Bucks, all bets are off. I mean,
yeah, right.
it's who knows where quarterbacks will end their careers at this point.
Totally. So, Philip Rivers in Indy and then a couple other guys. So, it's an interesting thing. Jordan Love, I think it's an interesting pick. Like you said, it was definitely a big surprise. But I think it was a good fit.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, for me, the Packers drafting a quarterback isn't, a shocking thing to me, but if it was in a draft class where there isn't the most talent at wide receiver that we've ever seen, arguably, I think it's a little bit more palatable for not only Aaron Rodgers, but for Packers fans alike. Uh, you pass up on guys like Denzel Mims that were still available. I believe Brandon Ayuk hadn't been drafted yet, right?
Correct. Yeah, he had
Yeah,
not.
Ayuk still hadn't been drafted. T. Higgins was still on the board. Good receivers
Yeah,
were available to be taken, and
sure.
they kind of pass up the opportunity. I think the Packers are in win now mode.
Yep.
Uh, as soon as that pick came off the board, I obviously thought of the Rodgers Favre thing a couple years back, but I also thought of when the Patriots drafted Jimmy G. But that was a second round pick.
Right.
It wasn't like you took your first pick in the draft, in the top 32 and drafted the heir apparent to your franchise Hall of Fame quarterback.
Yeah.
I was I was a little uncomfortable with it, but it is what it is. Surprise for you?
I would say just for me to start was Austin Jackson
Mhm.
going at 18 overall to the Dolphins. For me, I think that was a bit of a reach. Um, you could group him in with maybe like a Josh Jones or whatever. I think that they kind of panicked personally. I would have went with something completely different. I mean, I think you could have picked any other position at that point and not you. I think you could have gotten Austin Jackson with the last pick there when they went with who did they take with their last pick?
Noah Igbenogany.
Yeah, again another kind of a reach. I thought.
Yeah,
So those were two. As much as everyone said coming into this, the Dolphins are going to be in a win for this draft no matter what. I feel like they kind of did reach on two of those three picks.
yeah, I
Um,
agree 100%.
so a little interesting there, and I'm not really that happy if I'm a Dolphins fan, to be honest with you.
No,
Um, you know,
yeah. To me, you get two at five for the Dolphins, slam dunk. That's a win in my book. They don't have to trade up to make it happen. They land them at five. Fantastic pick for them. You're sitting there at 18. We were both pretty high on Caleb on Chason as an edge rusher, which we
sure,
thought would have been perfect in that Belichick Flores type system as
sure,
a hybrid linebacker guy. That they opt to go for tackle there, which is fine. I thought Josh Jones was a far better prospect than Austin Jackson. That's just me. But obviously, they're banking on upside and age.
yeah,
Because Jackson, I believe, was the youngest tackle that declared this year.
yeah, yeah.
So
Yes.
you
I
know,
think he's 20.
yeah, he's I think he's still 20 years old, if not just turned 21. So he's a super young prospect. Honestly, it reminds me. I don't think they're the same player, but I remember when Tyron Smith came out of USC
Sure,
and got
yeah,
drafted by the Cowboys. He was one of the
super young.
youngest players to ever be drafted. Similar situation, but obviously, I don't think it's a same caliber player.
Yep,
Um, and then at 30, they trade back. They go back to 30. They draft Noah Igbenogany. Very Belichick type of move because we've seen the Patriots, what they like to do. We saw Patricia do it at pick 3, building that defense from the back, up,
yep,
just going with lockdown corners. They now have a three-headed trio that's just tough to stop in terms of you got Byron Jones and Xavier Howard on the outsides, and now you got
sure.
Ibn Agane on the inside. I like the fit. I thought he was a good prospect. I just thought maybe you could have gotten him in that second round area. Their second round pick isn't that far away when we start the draft tonight. So I thought it was a reach. Safety's still a huge concern for them. Guys
Yep,
like McKinney were on the board, Antoine Winfield, who we both really love. They kind of opted to go corner instead, which is fine. But yeah, I agree. The after the Tua pick, the Dolphins kind of went off the radar, which we're I don't want to proclaim us to be smarter than Brian Flores or the front office there in Miami, but just
But we are.
we could be, but just based off the board, I didn't like the value that they went with there.
I agree. I think honestly the whole draft from that point on, and I think it really started with CeeDee Lamb, which I know we're going to get into with the
Yeah,
Cowboys. But that's where it kind of really started to be a little bit odd the first round.
yeah,
Um, you know,
yeah. Which is where that usually starts to happen. I mean, is there any other picks that you could think of, off the top of your head that were odd to you?
I think a little bit Cesar Ruiz, the fit in New Orleans was a little bit odd. They have a center there already. So is he going to play guard? They drafted McCoy last year.
Hmm.
So, do you put Ruiz at center? I don't know. I get it. That was just a bit, again, the fit was a bit odd. Jalen Rager over Justin Jefferson. Eh, you know. Um,
Ugh.
again, I don't know. So you had a guy like a lot of even with Kenneth Murray and Patrick Queen and Jordan Brooks. I didn't think Jordan Brooks was going to go where he did, and that's very typical Seattle. I know, like I said, you and I were texting, and that's one thing you said. So it was that was interesting. So a couple of those things were just a little odd to me. Yeah.
Yeah, totally agree. For the Saints with the Ruiz pick, I understand they weren't really in a position where they needed to draft anything. I
Right.
think they're probably one of the most complete rosters in the league, but I thought linebacker was a glaring, not glaring, but I thought linebacker was probably their biggest
Sure.
area of need, and you had guys like Queen sitting on the board for you at 24, but they just gave Andres Pete like a huge contract to stay at that left guard spot. Their tackles are solidified because I know Pete was drafted as a tackle originally, and then they bumped him inside immediately.
Right.
He's going to stay at guard. I thought Eric McCoy played really well at center last year, and then you have Earl Watford, who's just a veteran. I guess they're banking on him not being around for the foreseeable future, and I guess they kind of just got ahead of you know what's to come with him.
Sure.
I haven't seen his contract, but he might be entering either the final year or the year after. He'll be walking out, and he's a little bit older, so I think that's what they're kind of prepping for. But yeah, in terms of a win now type of move, Drew Brees, signing another 1 year contract to make a final run at it. I thought they could have helped him with some defensive standouts that they could have
Right.
taken. So I agree there. Rager, I texted you immediately. I said, how can the Eagles be so bad at drafting wide receivers? Justin Jefferson, I thought was an absolutely fabulous fit there, and they just opted not to do it.
Jalen Rager literally comps to Nelson Aguilar, which is what the Eagles were trying to get away from.
They shipped him away. He just signed with my stupid team that likes to draft third round corners at 19. But it's yeah, like I agree 1,000%. He has the quicks, he's fast, but he's to me he's a gadget receiver. I thought Justin Jefferson is a much more refined route runner. He is
Yeah.
bigger. He lives in the slot, which is what the Eagles were kind of looking for, considering they have Deshaun Jackson and Alshon Jeffrey on the outside, Zach Ertz at tight end. I thought Jefferson in the slot RPO game is just a nightmare to defend.
Sure.
Uh, they opt not to go with that. Just strange selections. And then Jordan Brooks, obviously, I'm not going to question Seattle because I think they've proven they know how to draft guys, um,
Definitely.
more specifically late. But I'm not going to question it. I guess they wanted to move away from the KJ Wrights of the world. Bobby Wagner is going to be solidified there for a while, but I guess they wanted to get that counterpart to him, which is, it's fine. I'm not going to question that. But yeah, I 100% agree. Just some strange picks that happened after CeeDee Lamb falls miraculously to 17. The Dallas Cowboys, become the beneficiaries of landing our favorite receiver in the draft at 17 and the third one off the board. What were your thoughts on that?
I mean, as a Giant fan, I was like, oh, not great. Because you had to play him and a Cooper. And even Gallup's a pretty good receiver who now becomes the three, in my opinion.
Yes.
Um, but I think what's nice about CeeDee Lamb is he's versatile. He'll play the slot. He'll play that Randall Cobb role, if you will, in Mike McCarthy's offense. But he
Hmm.
can go outside, as we know. Strong hands, just a really good power receiver, if you will. Um, really good fit. Again, I think Dallas got a little bit greedy. I think they could have. I think they had bigger needs. Again, you lock up a guy like Cooper for 5 years, 100 mil.
Yeah.
And then, you have Gallup and a couple other guys, but I think that they really had more of an edge problem. They had safety. They needed safety help. So
Corner.
I get it, especially in a really good deep wide receiver class like we talked about. I get it. It's a great pick, but it's a little bit odd in the sense of, did you really need it? And the defense needs some help.
Yeah. I think what the pick came down to was Lamb was unquestionably the best player available at the spot.
Sure.
Jerry Jones was drafting on his $250 million yacht without much communication to the outside world. And I think the biggest thing is this year going into 2021 is Dak Prescott worth the $30+ million investment that we're about to make in him? And if he is, we got to find out and surround him with as much talent as humanly possible. So now you look at the Dallas offense, that's a complete offense by my evaluation. You got
Yeah.
three really solid receivers, a franchise type of running back in Zeke Elliott, top 5 O-line in the sport still. Maybe the loss of Travis Frederick makes it a little bit, less of an offensive line, but we'll see. But yeah, the defense has struggled. You mentioned safety, certainly a need. Edge rusher opposite D-Law is certainly a need. But corner, I thought, was honestly their biggest area of need. And a couple of guys they could have addressed it with, and they chose not to.
Yep.
Yeah,
I
so
agree.
the big thing was, I think the whispers about Ruggs being the first receiver taken certainly came to fruition, which I wasn't surprised about because you hear it all the time. You can't teach speed. He goes first. Judy goes second, which at that point was a toss-up between him and Lamb going to Denver, but I think they wanted to have a little bit more of a deep threat with
Yep.
Judy, with Locke and his arm strength, and Sutton being more of a possession guy. I like the fit there better. And then at 17, Dallas, it's hard to pass up on him. So I'm not shocked that they took him. I'm more shocked that he was there. Uh,
Absolutely.
so
Absolutely.
as we transition into the second round, coming tonight, tons of talent still on the board. I mean, we talked for a little while after the draft and said, I can't believe what type of guys are sitting here on the board still. Uh,
Sure.
who are three of your favorite guys that are still sitting on the board?
Yeah, I mean, you have a guy like Antoine Winfield Jr.
Yep.
That's a guy who is my favorite safety. But then you have a guy like Xavier McKinney from Alabama, who projected almost top 15, top 20 pick. He slides. He's a great value right now. You have a guy like finally the running backs. Maybe you see a trend with that now with the last pick in the first round being Clyde the Glide from LSU. So maybe
What a pick.
DeAndre Swift, is a guy, but you got to keep an eye out for them. And I think you're going to see another run on receivers: Michael Pittman Jr., Denzel Mims, maybe a Chase Claypool. So it's good. I mean, again, tons of talent: Gross Matos, Epinesa. But I'll pass the baton to you. Tons of guys.
Yeah, you started me off right. I thought the edge talent that is left on the board is absolutely, shocking considering what an area of importance edge is in this league today. Epinesa, bad combine, but who cares? The dude is productive as all hell. He could kick inside on third down and be that interior rusher that teams like. To see him slip out of the top 32 was shocking to me. I thought Seattle was going to jump the gun and draft him. Lost Clowney. He's that perfect mold, that Seattle defensive end that they look for. I was really, baffled that wasn't the pick there. He makes it to the second round. Zach Baun is still sitting on the board, who's one of our favorite guys, makes it into the second round. You mentioned the safeties. Grant Delpit was one that we didn't mention. With your guys, Grant Delpit's still on the board, which was surprising.
Yep.
A lot of guys that can really, could have been first round picks. T. Higgins is still on the board at receiver. Just really surprising to see the talent that is available. So
No
why don't
doubt.
you give me, a couple of fits or a couple of storylines that you kind of want to see unfold as we move into 7 o'clock tonight?
Definitely. I mean, I think when you look at, even if I do the top five tonight, you got Cincy, you got the Colts, you got the Lions, and you got the Giants, even the Patriots now with the trade for the Chargers when they got Kenneth Murray. And you look at the Bengals, I think that they're going to go offensive tackle, pair with Jonah Jackson. who they drafted last year. Was it Jonah Jackson? Oh no, Jonah Williams.
Williams.
Jonah Williams. I'm sorry,
Yeah,
Jonah Williams.
Jonah Jackson's in the draft this year.
That's right.
His
So
first,
Jonah,
first pick,
so right. So you pair him with I think Josh Jones would be a nice fit.
Mm-hmm.
Protect Burrow. I could even see a guy like Cushenberry going here. The
Would love that.
center who you pair back with Joe Burrow from LSU. Indy, I could see an edge. They need edge big time. A guy like Gross Matos here, even Bourne, or a big receiver. I think a Mims or a Michael Pittman's a good fit there. When you talk about Detroit, they went with the corner Jeff Okuda, so I could see them shoring up that middle of that defense with a defensive tackle.
Mm-hmm.
You get maybe Ross Blaylock, Neville Gallimore, Matabuki from Texas A&M.
What about Epinesa there? I mean, you talk about a big edge setter on the end. You pair him with Trey Flowers and plug him inside on third down. I think that's a good fit.
Absolutely, I agree with you. Then you get to the Giants, and I say a guy like Antoine Winfield, maybe a Grant Delpit. They take the upside and kind of the pedigree there from his college days. Maybe they go edge rusher Zach Bond. I know they really like, but again, I think they're going to target a center, maybe a Matt Hennessy or a Cushenberry or something like that. On the New England's interesting. New England is like prototypical AJ Epinesa,
Oh my
kind of
God,
like
fit
you
that.
talked about, and I think
Gross
that's
Matos too. I think would be great for them.
Gross Matos, Bond. Those three guys I think are key prime guys to get into New England. And I could also see them even maybe dipping in a corner market,
Mm-hmm.
to pair up across from Gilmore. So those are kind of things I look for. I think DeAndre Swift is going to go eventually. Maybe you get him at Miami, 39. And I think that's a really good fit for them. If they do that, if they get DeAndre Swift at 39, they're kind of back into my good graces, if you will, after a so-so first round.
Yeah, I agree 100%. A couple of fits that I'm really looking at. We mentioned the big defensive end edge guys fitting in with those, Detroit, New England, teams with that Belichick type of system. I love those fits. I do think we're going to see a big run on running backs in the second round. A
Definitely.
lot of teams that need running backs are now coming up on the board. You think of a Tampa Bay that can, maybe hope to land a DeAndre Swift,
No doubt.
pass catching back out of the backfield with Tom Brady. That they were the team that I had pegged as a Clyde Edwards-Helaire spot, and I
Sure.
think that would have been phenomenal. But he ends up being the first back off the board. Not surprising to me. He was my favorite guy coming out, but now you have a guy like Swift sitting there who I think fits well. Some teams that we haven't heard from yet. We mentioned the Patriots who traded out of their spot. We
Sure.
got the Rams with 2 second-round picks, the Bears with 2 second-round picks. And I just think that those are teams that are going to look to take advantage of the fact that, there's a lot of talent still on the board. There's some good corners that are left. There's some good, receivers that are left. I think the Rams might look to take, like a J.K. Dobbins with one of their second-round picks, a zone scheme type of runner for McVay. There's certainly things that I'm excited to see. I think for the Jets, sticking with one of my teams, if Denzel Mims or T. Higgins fall to 48, I'm doing cartwheels in the street because that would be what a haul for the Jets on the first, their first 2 picks. You get your left tackle, and then you also get a really good receiver in either Mims or Higgins. Either one of them to me would be a perfect fit. I'm not as high on Michael Pittman as some other people are. I know people love to force that connection just because it's USC and USC with Darnold and him. But to me, if a Mims is on the board, you don't worry about the college connection. Just take the best receiver on the board.
Also, he'll block in the run game, which is
He
important.
will.
Have
Yes.
Le'Veon.
Yeah,
So
100%. They had some really cool cut-ups of him, getting involved in the blocking game that I saw that I was really enjoying. But just the talent that's available. We mentioned this in our mock when you first introduced yourself. You said this is arguably the deepest draft that we've seen in years in
yeah,
terms of just talent from top to bottom.
yeah,
I think we're really going to see that, come to fruition right now in the second and third rounds coming up. I love the potential is still on the board. Teams, showing that maybe they don't value some of these raw athletic prospects the way that we do. You think of a Gross Matos that has the body type to be a dominant edge rusher. He falls. Grant Delpit, athletic guy. He's slipping. Yeah, and it's exciting to see. I'm
Yes.
super excited about the second round. It's funny. I might be more excited to see what happens in the second and third round than I was to see what happens in the first because
Yes.
as we let off the show, we said the top 10 picks were kind of set in stone with prospects coming off the board, not
Yep.
necessarily where they went, but it was kind of predictable up until about the mid part of the first round. We didn't see a lot of trades. We didn't see a lot of action. I think now moving into the second round, we kind of got used to what this platform is going to look like with the Zoom and the video conferencing. I think communication got a lot better as time went on. People learned how to kind of communicate with each other, make deals happen, and
Yep.
I think we're really going to see some guys move around to try and get some of these guys that are left available.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to see what strange people are at Mike Vrabel's house.
Yes.
So that'll be interesting.
Did you see the guy on the toilet?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, that was quite interesting. I'm happy
Was
ESPN
that a
took.
plant? Was that real?
I don't know. I'm not too sure, but that was interesting, and seeing a couple of these setups, man, really really interesting stuff. But yeah, it's really this is the bread and butter of the draft, if you will. I was just talking to my dad earlier, and I said I'm more excited for, like you said, tonight and tomorrow more than I was for for last night, because a lot of the times in these later rounds, mid rounds, teams have more than one pick. So you're going to be able to see another team go twice, once. Maybe some teams like, what's Bill O'Brien going to do? Bill O'Brien is like the most scrutinized GM I've ever seen. I don't know if he knows what he's doing, but he finally is on the clock tonight at 40. Maybe they'll go receiver because, they didn't have a guy like DeAndre Hopkins.
Be nice to have
Um,
a guy like DeAndre
it
Hopkins.
would, yeah, it'd be interesting. It was funny when they made that trade. People were like, "Wow, this Texans offense with Brandon Cooks." I'm like, they had DeAndre Hopkins. How about that offense with DeAndre Hopkins? So yeah, but Bill O'Brien, it'll be interesting to see what he does tonight. And like you said, running back on the market, Jacksonville. They're going to move on from Fournette.
Mhm.
What are they going to do now? They have Chase on. What are they going to do with Ngakoue? What are you going to get for him at this point? There's a lot of names out there on the trade market, veterans, Curtis Samuel in Carolina. So we'll see if any of these guys get moved, and I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, 100%. The trades was going to be the thing I closed us out with. So good transition there. We got Yannick Ngakoue clearly available on the market, asking to be traded. Trent Williams has apparently, the Redskins have apparently lowered their asking price on him. He might be able to be had for a third round pick. Uh, a lot of guys could be moving. We mentioned Fournette in Jacksonville as well. It would be certainly interesting to see, a team, maybe with an extra pick or two in these middle rounds, say, you know what, let's take a shot on one of these guys that are available and kind of just swing for the fences.
Sure. If I'm the Jets, I take that pick that you got from the Giants, and I would offer that third rounder for Ngakoue,
Yeah,
or even Trent Williams. Yeah, you have Trent Williams and Becton.
I'm all for that.
So basically, you traded Leonard Williams for either Yannick Ngakoue or Trent Williams. That's a home run.
Yeah, it's a home run without a question. So, Matt, I want to thank you for coming on. We want to get out of here because I'm going to edit this up, get it up for everybody to see. Before 7 o'clock tonight when we kick off. Um, you know, our next segment will probably be us giving draft grades for teams after this. This whole draft is concluded. We're going to be sitting on pins and needles come 7 o'clock, just waiting out these picks and seeing how these rosters are going to round up, come camp, if there is one.
Yeah, no doubt. Hopefully there is football.
Yeah, 100%. All right, Matt, thank you so much. And once again, guys, appreciate you all watching. This is D4 Sports entertainment for the walk-ons of life. I appreciate you guys watching. We'll see you in a few. Okay, 3, 2, 1. I know I said 3, 2, 1, but I wasn't ready.
That's okay. On you.